Man United are still regarded as one of the biggest football clubs in the world, but with just 4 wins in 15 games in all competitions this season, they sit 14th in the Premier League and 21st in the Europa League. Today, Ten Hag has been sacked, and we are going to discuss everything. Why? Was it right? And ultimately, who and what is next for Man United? We'll come to you, Reece, first. I guess the obvious question to ask, is this the right call? Because it's been knocking on the door for a while.
I'm in two minds. I would argue that yes, it's probably been a long time coming. I mean, performances have not improved in his third. Well, this is his third season in charge, so you could argue it's not improved. But I would also argue that there's such a mess, such drama behind the scenes that he's had to deal with, and shifting out a lot of players that were not his. Where I thought maybe this is his last full season to prove that he's got it. 2 trophies in the bank were enough to show that, but realistically, things haven't improved. So I think a lot of United fans are happy he's gone. But yeah, it's mixed feelings for me because I think he should have still had time.
Jamie, how are you feeling about it? I mean, a little stat for you, you'll like the number. It was just 115 days ago that he actually got a 12-month extension. And it's gone to pot that quickly. So what's happened here?
I'll be honest, I am gutted. I've picked out my blackest football kit to show I'm in mourning about Ten Hag going. And look, City gave up an FA Cup final to keep him in the job. And in the league, teams have been selfish by taking 3 points off United. Brighton, Liverpool, Spurs, West Ham, greedy by taking them 3 points. We could have kept him in the job and it would have been absolutely A-OK. The teams that understood, Southampton, Brentford, Fulham, you lose. Give him a bit of confidence. He's not going to do anything in the long run. Yeah, look, I'm slightly joking, but I'm sad he's gone because United fans were getting more and more depressed every week, and I enjoy that. You had Rio Ferdinand. I heard him today where he'd said after 9 games in the league, he'd written the season off for United for him to win anything. 9 Premier League games in. Ridiculous. He had to go. Come on. He finished 8th in the league last year. That's the worst finish in United's Premier League history. He's 14th at the moment. And a great stat I saw was if Everton and if Leicester both won their games, which was against Ipswich and Southampton, so quite likely, United would have been 16th in the league before they played. You can't do that as a Man United manager. They are the biggest club in England. They're one of the biggest in the world. You can't be sitting 14th, maybe even 16th. Nearly a third of the games in. So it was just the writing was on the wall, and he deserved to be sacked. I don't understand where people thought he should keep his job. Yes, he won 2 trophies, but 95% of it, they were dreadful. It was covered up by the trophy wins.
I think this is the point, is that it was always 1 step forward and 2 steps back with Ten Hag. Like, he won those trophies and he put in excellent performances. And when he was under the cosh, or when he was under that moment to deliver, he did. And it did baffle me that he was unable to rectify that, get that consistency with it. When we look at his first season, he lost his first 2 games, and that included a 4-0 battering at Brentford. We didn't think too much of it because we thought, okay, look, he still needs time. And then they picked up a couple of results. And then they lost again, then they won the League Cup, and then they got thrashed 7-0 by Liverpool. And then and that's what they've had some batterings as well, in addition to that, other batterings. It has been frustrating. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, this is it. This is where they're going to click. They're going to go on from here. And they just didn't. And I don't understand why. I'm not sure if it's a tactics thing, if it's a players thing. I think he did a lot of things well, but I think a lot of things could have been done better, obviously. But it's just, it's just so strange for him, like that lack of consistency with the players he's got. Those players need to be taking a good hard look at themselves as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, I am echoing a lot of what you guys have said. 100% is the right call. And Man United fans, if you disagree, please do genuinely comment, and I want to hear the positives for him. I guess it's trophies, but at the end of the day, as you said, there's been no redeeming quality this season. You can look at maybe Europe and go, oh, we're doing all right in Europe. You're not. There's nothing. There's no redeeming quality. Cups have been poor. And 21st in a Europa League. That is a disgrace. Look at the teams you've played in that, and you've not won a game. That alone is arguably sackable. Then you look at the league form.
I would excuse him in the Europa League, to be fair. The Twente one is inexcusable. But Porto and Fenerbahce away, I mean, they're not nice places to go for any team. Those teams could probably, especially under Mourinho and Fenerbahce, they could probably take on a lot of Europe's teams at home. If they would have drawn them at Old Trafford, I would have been more concerned. I'll give him his there. That's not the worst.
You've got to remember, you have to win these games away from home, though. And he hadn't won an away game in Europe for a year when he had Fenerbahce, Porto, Copenhagen, Galatasaray, who were all games, and Bayern Munich. Okay, Bayern Munich, fair enough. That's acceptable to me. The rest of them, if you gave United, right, these are your next 4 games, you expect them to win at least one. And I don't think it was acceptable, his sort of form. And to say 21st, I know it's a new format and all this sort of stuff, but it's embarrassing being that low. You got Villa in the Champions League, top of the table. Yeah. You're seeing stuff from other managers who have had less time than him performing better. And that's where I don't have the argument of he needs more time. That you can underperform against City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Villa. That's fine. If you come 6th, I think that's not acceptable. But you can see there can be progression. He's finishing 8th. It's now 14th in the league. I just don't see it. The only excuse I have for him is he has had a lot of injuries. But I've said it to you, Jordan, in the past. When they signed Højlund, I saw an article come out saying he cannot play 90 minutes. He physically can't. So that's why he gets subbed off at 70 minutes, because I don't know what's actually the problem, whether it's just actual match fitness or there's injuries. But you're signing players who, for a lot of money, who aren't proven, and you're under pressure straight away by spending all that amount of money for players who can't develop. And you've got to remember, they signed Euro in the summer. He's not kicked a ball for the manager who signed him now. Crazy. He's gone.
It's a chain of events, isn't it? Before we look at what was the final nail in his coffin at West Ham, it's if we do talk about the signings, there have been big money signings. Let's be honest. Look, Martinez has probably been the best signing of the lot. I would argue that obviously Anthony hasn't worked out. He bought Ugarte, but put him on the bench instead over the weekend, which I thought was strange. He was supposed to be Casemiro's replacement. Højlund, of course, is quite injury prone at the moment. Xerxes, I thought, was a strange signing because he couldn't cut the mustard at Bayern Munich. So he was going to look better in a Bologna team who were playing the style that Motta was playing. I thought he was going to fit in just nice. And, Motta didn't take him to Juventus with him. Look, Curie will probably score a goal against us in a couple of weeks, but I was a bit confused by that signing. I was probably a bit confused by the Mason Mount signing. These have all been big money signings.
But the problem is some of the signings, sorry, to your point, Reece, some of the signings you don't know these days with clubs, whether it's a board signing or a manager signing. So you can almost, to some degree, excuse a few of the signings. But what you can't excuse is the depth of their squad.
I think I even disagree with that, Jordan, because he signed Anthony, who used to play under him. He signed De Ligt, played under him. He's signed players that he knows. Not all of them, but you don't sign all the players that you know. You don't keep following around a club. But he's tried to sort of implement what he's known. He's known quality was Anthony to him. He should know him better than anyone else in world football. And that's been horrendous.
Hmm.
and that was 90 million.
And
So
let's not forget as well with Anthony how whoever was when they were looking at making him signing, the guy did say, "Oh, he's not worth more than I think he said like 20, 25 million." So where on earth, at a push 30, where on earth did that 80 million come from? Because if you're the manager, you're loving it because the board are agreeing to sign, they're willing to spend that. What other board would have sanctioned that signing? Let's be honest, for that much, for that valuation, that difference, I get why he was brought in, but that just goes to show what a mess it's been. And he has to take responsibility for that too, because I have no doubt that Ten Hag would have said, yes, I want him, let's sign him. So
Yeah, with those ones, 100%. But I'm just saying, I'm not convinced every single signing is a Ten Hag signing.
potentially
But
not.
either way,
No, but these days, man, you're a coach. You should be able to coach with the players that you get at your disposal. Yes, I understand that you have a style of play and a certain players that you want, but yeah, I think the board, have made some of those signings. I would have. Otherwise, that's probably why he's a bit inconsistent with the way he plays them.
well, Mazraoui, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't catch the game, but looking online, Mazraoui apparently was in a number 10 role, I believe, for the Fenerbahce game. That at least was doing the rounds. Admittedly, I didn't catch the full game, but you look at that and go, assuming that is correct, what are you doing? Like, what is
fair? He used to be a midfielder, so there's a small of he has changed position to be a fullback. But yes, it's a really weird one where you've clearly got to have other players who can play that role rather than what's meant to be your right or left back. It is a bit of a weird one with the tactics and everything like that. Now, look, all signings don't work out perfectly, but like Reece sort of said, Martinez is probably the only one we can argue it's gone well. And I only think we think that is because United fans big him up to be the best centre back in the world, which we clearly
it's not been that good.
no. We clearly know he's not, but we must think, oh, he's been half decent then. Like that's I think that's a smoke and mirrors over that. I can't really go to you. Oh yeah, him signing them was a great bit of signing. I think the only thing he's done well for United was bringing Mainu and bringing Garnacho. Really, I think Garnacho started before Ten Hag was there, but developed him. I think that's the only plus I give Ten Hag, except for look, winning 2 trophies. You've won 2 trophies. You can't. He's not knocking that. But in terms of actually progressing United, I think Mainu and Garnacho are the only 2 positives for him.
Well, let's get on to that, because that brings us nicely onto the next topic, because the question is, why has it failed? But you can argue that question applies beyond Ten Hag, because actually the case for him staying literally just months ago, and there was United fans backing him, by the way. There was, obviously less so now.
Yeah.
But
there still is. Like I think some United fans still wanted him at the club. So
the sentiment from a few months ago has changed massively. But the logic from United fans, of course, was, look, no manager since Ferguson's really done anything. He's done more. So I guess getting a bit deeper, why do we think it has been such a drop off for United since Sir Alex Ferguson left? And are these issues just deeper rooted?
I think it's a number of issues. First of all, you're replacing a guy who, 26 years at a club, had everything top to bottom. And when he was leaving, his side were drastically, deteriorating. Neville gone, Scholes going, Giggs was pretty much on the last there. So whoever was coming in was having to replace a lot of players. Ferdinand was coming at the end. Patrice Evra was coming at the end. 4 or 5 of your starting 11 are finishing up. Someone's got to replace that. Moyes had never won a trophy as a manager, so strangely he was brought in, and he changed all the backroom staff. Problem number 1. He should have kept a few level heads there and tried to have kept a few of those players. Obviously, it didn't work out, but again, it's that big transition. It's like that vacuum effect. Van Gaal comes in, the experienced head, someone they've got who's worked with. He didn't work out, even though he won an FA Cup. Because again, some of the signings were very questionable. Didn't work out. Mourinho, we know what Mourinho does. I don't know why we were so shocked that it becomes so implosive like that. You know, they sanctioned the money for Paul Pogba when there was a reason Ferguson got rid of him. You know, he won 2 trophies, did a good job. Again, it didn't work out. Solskjaer, we know what happened there. Rangnick, we know what happened there. Then, of course, it's come to Ten Hag, and I just think it's a mixture of things. Ten Hag wasn't even allowed to bring in his own physio department. That's probably the worst signing the United board did not sanction, because he needed those for the style of play. So everybody has to take the blame, top to bottom. It's as simple as that. Managers have to admit their mistakes. Players have to admit their mistakes. You know, Pogba doesn't agree to £100 million. It's not him. Puts the price on his head. Everyone has to admit to their mistakes in these last few years.
Yeah.
And moving out of the shadow, that's the big thing. That's the past. Look to the future, but they're not. They're looking at the past.
Yeah, and the concern is they have got leaders in the squad. And that's always been my big question mark over United, because you look at some of the other teams in the league, and we're a good example at the minute. You can almost excuse it because there's a lack of experience. But you look at United and go, you know, Fernandes, leader, Casemiro, leader, Maguire, some might disagree, but leader. And it's just weird that you've got so many players. You know, De Ligt, yes, he's new, but I'd argue he's got leadership qualities. You've got maybe Dallow's a bit of a push, but you've got that, you know, Dallow, Mazraoui, like you've got these players who just have more experience than a lot of the signings, the young potential signings they've made. It's just weird that they can't somehow find a way to come together and click.
I mean, before obviously, Jamie, go to you and then look at the West Ham game, etc. I think there is a club culture issue. You know, you're right. They've got a lot of leaders, but they're coming to Manchester United, who many would argue are the biggest club in the world, the biggest brand in football in some ways. The social media attention, the scrutiny, the spotlight is always on you if you're a Man United player. You know, Real Madrid is obviously a big club, but I wouldn't say there's that media spotlight in comparison. I think you get the scrutiny of a lot of things, and I think if you're at a club where owners maybe aren't saying anything, other people aren't saying anything, you got things crumbling around you, you probably feel like you can absolve blame elsewhere, and everyone can blame one another, and you know, there's nobody there to be like, look, this is my fault, let's sort this out now. You're not hearing that. I think it's just been a culture of a random. It's just been mistakes from all across really, and it's created this culture.
Just want to say I slightly disagree with you on the Real Madrid point. I think Real Madrid and Barca do have more scrutiny than United. They have 2 newspapers dedicated to them individually, so I do think they do. But back to sort of United, it has been a well-known problem that the Glazers haven't done it well. Like they've not controlled it well, and it's not been a few years now. Ferguson left, I think, 10 years ago now, so we're coming up to a decade of it at least. Yeah. So it's not a few years. It's not like a small rut. It's United on. I don't see United competing for the title unless something drastically changes for at least 3 years. Like they're well off it, and this is meant to be when they've had a manager come in for two and a bit years who's won 2 trophies. You should see some progress. You'd think, you know, we could challenge for the title because the United. That's the expectation, and I don't see that ever changing for at least another like 5 years. If they're not competing still in 5 years' time, that's when the narrative of United might change, because they are this massive club. I don't see, because they are trying to make changes. You have to say, like Ineos or whatever they're called have come in and they've now tried to take over a new director of football and all these sort of other things. So they are trying to change what's going on at United and what's gone wrong, but that doesn't happen overnight. And at the moment, you're still stuck with the same 11, I don't know, 20 odd players in your squad, and that's not going to change. And there's a toxic sort of atmosphere at United. They got rid of Mourinho. When they got rid of Mourinho, you saw that was due to the players. They listened to the players, got rid of him. They did it with a few other managers. The person who actually came out and who's seen, like he's had a mystic ball was Ranić. And it's like, at the time, people were like, oh, he's clueless. He doesn't know what he's doing. Everything he said, there's been at least 5 to 10 quotes of him going exactly, get this player, do this player won't work, blah, blah, blah. And all of them have been correct. And he said, no one will listen. No one listens. And if no one's going to listen, you're not going to progress. You're going to fall back. And that's the problem with United, I think. And Ten Hag has to take the blame for his part in it, but it's not solely down to him. And whoever comes in next, good luck. You're going to need it.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think though on the squad. I don't agree with the 5-year thing, because I do think if they went on a bit of form, all their players played in form, I don't think they're that far off. I think you could make it would have to be quite a bullish case, but I do think you can make an argument for them easily turning it round with a new manager. Because as much as we've said about the signings in the squad,
so how many times can they keep doing that?
Turning it round though, Jordan, what do you expect from a turnaround? Because they can't title challenge. I'm not saying this season, but
no,
this team squad isn't better than City, Arsenal, Liverpool. At least.
No.
So I wouldn't put them in a title race at all. So that's where I'm saying it. I said 3 years, by the way. It's sort of 3 years. I don't see it happening. Something has to drastically change for that to happen.
And they can't be that club that just brings in someone else, does well, that starts to foul, they chuck them away. Because eventually you do decline with that approach. So they've got to have some longevity somewhere. But what about the West Ham game? If we look at what was that final nail in the coffin? In what many, why do you think that was the game they decided to let him go? Because to me, this was one of the many false dawns where I thought, oh, they're finally starting to turn it around, because they got some good results. They'd got them draws at Fenerbahce, they'd got the win against Brentford, they got a credible draw at Villa and a fighting back draw against Porto. And they actually played well.
That's the problem.
But this is what I will say. This is what I will say is when they lose, they play terrible. I mean, my word, they are the worst side I've ever seen. They're getting battered. Losing at home to Liverpool and Spurs 3-0 in both those games. That's poor. And then they get that draw at Villa where you're like, oh, okay, they've got something in the locker. They played well yesterday at West Ham. They played well. They should have been 4 up. They missed their chances. And then regardless of whether you think it's a penalty or not, they then lost it. They still lost it. And they equalised in the 81st minute. So they shouldn't have gone on to lose that game. The momentum should have been with them. Why is it now that they've decided to let him go when they actually played that well? They're actually all right.
I think it's the league positions. I think ultimately you've got to look at the table and go, you've also got to look at his excuses. I mean, look, every manager does it. Let's be fair. Blame VAR, blame the refs. And look, the penalty was soft. Let's be honest. But I think you've just got to look at it and go, as I said at the start, you're 14th in the Premier League table. You just can't make a case for that. Look at the teams that are around them. It's just ridiculous. Leicester, I mean, they're with Leicester.
Look at the table and look at how many goals scored. Two teams have got less than them.
Ipswich Town. Ipswich Town. They scored more than them.
Ipswich have got more. Crystal Palace and Southampton are the only two who have scored less. And Southampton are going to go down. Crystal Palace really have one striker. They lost their best player in the summer. These are teams that are expected to be sort of lower scoring teams. Man United, I've said it for a few years when I was talking about FPL. United don't score many goals. And that's their biggest problem. And that's something Ten Hag never fixed. And then I think the reason why it's now, Reece, is you're 14th and 21st in 2 different leagues. What Premier League, you can have a stinker in that. But if you're top of Europa, you might think, you know what, we'll go on a European run and win that. And then we won't get relegated, but we won't have a great Premier League season. At least you win that trophy. In this, they could be getting knocked out in both. I see United probably turning it around because Europa League games, there are easier ones. But you can't be Man United and be 14th and 21st in 2 leagues, and one of them's not even the Champions League. It's unacceptable.
You've got to look as well at their peers, or their, who they'd consider rivals. Albeit you can look at the points early in the season and go, it's not that big a difference. But Newcastle have had a rough start. They're below them. Spurs way above them. Chelsea, new manager, similar approach, maybe with too many signings, doing well, clicking. Liverpool with 0 signings. Like if Liverpool were in United start losing, you can make the case for them like, oh, no signings, new manager. But like United have made signings and have a manager who's won trophies with them. It's just not adding up. And I think when they look ahead, I mean, it's annoying for us, obviously, from a Chelsea perspective, because I've never been more confident of us beating United at Old Trafford, and they're our bogey team. So now he's gone, I'm also fuming. So, but again, you've got to look at teams like that for comparison. Villa, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, obviously a bit of a different category now because they're competing, but you just can't. You look at those teams and how they're progressing, and you can't really make a case for him.
So who do we think is going to replace him then? And who's going to be the unlucky manager to replace him? Or who's going to miraculously turn it around? So at the moment, Van Nistelrooy is the caretaker manager. And I think he might be the bookies' favourites at this moment in time.
Well, it's since changed. So actually, news this evening has come out that they're in talks with Amorim, obviously Sporting Lisbon manager. So he is now the overwhelming favourite because of those rumours. So I guess let's start with him. I mean, he's a manager, we wanted before Maresca in the summer. City have potentially eyed up for a replacement for Pep. Arsenal potentially wanted for a replacement Arteta. Maybe that's a bit further away. So we've all wanted him. We've all wanted him in some capacity. So
this guy is who they should be going for. First of all, they're going for a manager who's at a club, not going for a manager who's out of work for a reason. They're prepared to play his release clause, which, if I'm aware, is quite expensive. To me, Ruben Amorim is the real deal. Like, this is the guy I want to be taking Arteta's job. By the way, folks, Arteta is not winning the league. I will re-emphasize that point. He, in half a season at Braga, won I think it's the equivalent of the FA Cup or League Cup. Then went to Sporting. He's won them 2 leagues. He's top of the league at the moment with maximum points. Has won another 2 versions of the Attack of the Liga. This guy's had to deal with selling best players, replacing them. He's made Gyökeres a beast. He's made Marcus Edwards a fantastic player. He made Ugarte a good player. Let's not forget that. He is excellent at what he does, and he's going to be in a position where he's not going to have to sell his best players. Players like Xerxes should thrive under him. Garnacho should be thriving under him. He is going to be a great appointment. He has to be. If he does not work out at United, then it is quite clear that there is a lot of other problems at United.
I think we know that already, though.
If he does not work out, then it's obvious where it is. The board will have to go. And then just clean out the whole place, as far as I'm concerned. He is
burn it down
manager.
That's just for different reasons.
He is a magnificent manager, a magnificent tactician. He makes average players quality. This is exactly what Man United need at this moment in time. He is the breath of fresh air they need. I think it's a shame he's leaving Sporting now because he can win him another league. But realistically, it's now or never in a way for him. If he doesn't go for that, what if they fill the position? He and Pep stays, etc. He might be stuck. Obviously, you've got to be concerned because Liverpool decided not to pull the trigger on him. They went for Slot instead, and West Ham, I think, as well, didn't quite make that move. So you have to look at that, potentially, question that. But I think this guy is a world-class coach, and I think he is exactly who United should be going for, and they're probably going for him now because they're scared he's going to go to City or somewhere like that if they don't snap him up now.
Well, to be fair, just to go on that point, I did think it was sort of like it could be a reason they're going for him now is we don't know if Pep's staying or leaving, even though it looks like he's going to extend, the rumours anyway. And he was the sort of most logical option due to the sort of director of football. However, the guy who went to United from City in the back room, I can't remember, he was like chief of football, something like that. He probably knew who they were looking at for Pep's replacement, saw his name near the top of the list, and have gone, well, if it's good enough for City, it'd be good enough for us. I'm not saying that's exactly how the conversation would have gone, but that is sort of the case. To go to other people though, there's Xavi, Thomas Frank's been thrown in there, Graham Potter I've seen,
Southgate. That was
Southgate, yes, Southgate, and then Kieran McKenna as well.
Good sake.
McKenna's just linked with McKenna's one of those now who's just going to get linked.
They can't go for McKenna. If he keeps Ipswich up in the league and then progresses with them, maybe even wins a cup, fine. Thomas Frank hasn't won, has kept Brentford steady. He's not taken them to that next level, so no. Southgate, no. Potter, he's still not taking a job, so don't bother. Don't waste your time if he's not going to be, desperate to make that move. Xavi, he didn't do that great with Barcelona. He lost some stupid games. And he looks like he talked himself out of a job, as far as I'm concerned. Van Nistelrooy deserves a chance. The guy won 2 trophies with PSV, which is nothing to be sniffed at. So he's not the worst if he proves himself, but it's quite clear they do not see him as that guy to take them forward. So as far as I'm concerned, Almiron is the most logical appointment.
Zidane?
Oh, he's not showing an interest in years.
He said no like 3 times already.
Yeah.
They like, it's been talked about. Like, I think Zidane's like, you know what? He can leave as sort of like a elite coach because of what he did at Real Madrid. He doesn't need to bother again, and he'll be put in the Hall of Fame as an absolute brilliant world-class footballer and a world-class manager. Because he doesn't need to actually properly prove it anywhere else.
Exactly.
I don't see him bothering.
Yeah, fair play to him for not like just jumping when he wants. He wants the France job. He's justified his work with Real Madrid. He takes the France job, finds success with them, fine. He probably sees the issues at United, probably doesn't fancy it.
Yeah, maybe they'll wait. As I said, they'll give Van Nistelrooy a chance. They've got Leicester this week, as I said, in the Carabao. Chelsea on the weekend. He goes and turns up, has a couple of good games in those games. I think maybe you give it him till the end of the season, and then go for Amrim in the summer. Yeah, there you go. That is all we got time for, folks. As always, we've had our say. We want to hear from you. Hit us up in the comments. Make sure you're subscribing. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.